My name is Tanya. I am 24 years old. I work as a secretary in a small company. I live alone in a small apartment near the city. Every morning I wake up early. I take a shower, make a cup of tea, and get ready for work. My office is 30 minutes away by car. I listen to soft music on the way. It helps me feel calm before a long day. I start work at 8:30. My boss's name is Mr. Harris. He is 45 years old. He is tall and always wears a clean suit. He speaks in a soft voice, but he likes things done quickly. When I reach the office, I make coffee for him first. He likes his coffee strong with no sugar. Then I open my computer, check emails, and answer phone calls. My desk is near the front door, so I am the first person everyone sees when they come in. On Mondays, the office is very busy. Mr. Harris often asks me to do many things at once. Sometimes I write letters, print papers, or make appointments. Sometimes he calls me into his office for small personal tasks. I always say yes, even when I am tired. I want to do a good job. I want him to be happy with my work. But after I help him with his personal things, I often feel strange. I cannot explain it well, but I feel uncomfortable. Mr. Harris is kind in some ways. He often buys me small gifts, like a box of chocolates or a flower for my desk. Once, he gave me a scarf for my birthday. He smiled and said, "You look beautiful in this color." I said thank you, but I felt shy. That night I looked at the scarf for a long time. I liked it, but I did not know why he gave it to me. No one else in the office got gifts from him. My coworker Lily once said quietly, "Tanya, the boss is very nice to you." I laughed and said, "He is nice to everyone." But inside, I knew she was right. He often called me into his office more than others. When we were alone, his tone was different. He smiled more. He talked about his life and asked about mine. I liked the attention. No one had ever made me feel that important before. I started thinking about him more. When I got home in the evening, I often thought about what he said that day. Sometimes I dreamed about him. It made me feel happy, but also confused. He was my boss, not my friend. Still, I liked how he looked at me and how he smiled when I brought him coffee. Every day followed the same routine. I worked hard all morning, answered phone calls, and organized his meetings. At lunch, I sat alone at my desk. Mr. Harris sometimes came out and asked, "Have you eaten?" I would say yes, even when I had not. Once he brought me a sandwich from the cafe nearby. He said, "You work too hard, Tanya. You need to take care of yourself." His words stayed in my mind all day. I felt warm inside. I thought maybe he really cared about me. In the afternoon, I often took the mail to the post office. The walk was short, and the fresh air helped me feel better. I liked being outside for a few minutes. Then I came back, cleaned the tables, and prepared things for the next day. I always left the office around 6:30. By the time I reached home, it was already dark. At home, I made a simple dinner, some soup or pasta. Then I watched TV or checked my phone. I did not have many friends in the city. Sometimes I went to the store to buy groceries. On Fridays, I called my mother. She lived in another town. She always asked, "How is work, Tanya?" I said, "It's fine. My boss is nice." I never told her about the strange feeling I had after some days at the office. I did not want her to worry. One Monday morning, I arrived a little late. There was traffic on the road. When I entered the office, Mr. Harris was already there. He looked at his watch and said, "You are late, Tanya." I said sorry and explained about the traffic. His face was serious for a moment, but then he smiled. "Next time, leave earlier," he said. Then he handed me a small box. "This is for you," he added. I opened it. Inside was a silver bracelet. "You don't need to," I said softly. "I wanted to," he replied. "You make my work easier." I smiled but felt nervous. I did not know what to say. Later that day, Lily saw the bracelet. She raised her eyebrows and said, "Another gift?" I told her it was just for helping with extra work. She did not look convinced. "Be careful," she said. I laughed it off, but her words stayed in my mind. That evening when I got home, I sat on my bed holding the bracelet. It was beautiful, but I felt uneasy. I wanted to believe Mr. Harris was just kind, but I was not sure anymore. I remembered how his hand touched mine when he gave me the box. It was only for a second, but it made me blush. The next few days, he was even more friendly. He asked about my weekend plans. He offered to drive me home when it rained. Once he said, "You look tired. You should rest more." I smiled and said thank you. I liked hearing those words from him. They made me feel seen. But part of me started to wonder if this was normal between a boss and his secretary. One afternoon, when everyone had gone home, Mr. Harris asked me to stay a little longer. He said he needed help with some files. I agreed, even though I was tired. I wanted to show I was responsible. We worked in silence for some time. Then he said, "You are very special, Tanya." My hands froze for a moment. I looked at him, unsure what to say. He smiled and continued, "You are not like the others. You understand me." My heart started to beat fast. I said, "Thank you, sir." He laughed softly. "You can call me Mark when we are alone." That night I could not sleep well. I kept thinking about his words. "You are very special." I liked hearing them, but they also confused me. Was this still work, or was it something else? I tried to stop thinking about it, but it was not easy. The next morning, I came to the office early. I wanted to avoid being alone with him again. But when he arrived, he smiled like nothing had happened. "Good morning, Tanya," he said. "Good morning, sir," I replied, pretending to be calm. All day I tried to stay busy. I answered calls, sent emails, and avoided long talks. But he still found moments to come near my desk and say small things like, "You look nice today," or "That color suits you." I smiled politely, but my hands trembled each time. By the end of the week, I felt tired, not just from work, but from thinking too much. I wanted to believe Mr. Harris cared for me in a good way, but deep down, I was unsure. I liked his attention, but it also made me feel guilty. I was his secretary, not his friend or girlfriend. Still, part of me wished his kindness meant something real. That Friday evening when I drove home, the radio played a love song. I smiled softly and thought about his smile, his gifts, and his gentle voice. But then I remembered Lily's words, "Be careful." My smile faded. I wanted to trust my boss, but something about his kindness did not feel safe anymore. That night, as I turned off the light, I told myself it was just work, nothing more. But in my heart, I was no longer sure. Before I continue rest of the story, please like, subscribe, share, and tell me where you are listening from. Your support means a lot to me. Now let's continue. The next week began like every other one. I woke up early, dressed in my light blue blouse, and tied my hair in a simple ponytail. I tried to think of nothing but work. On the drive to the office, I kept telling myself that Mr. Harris was only my boss and nothing more. I wanted to believe that if I worked hard and stayed polite, everything would stay normal. When I arrived, he was already there. He was sitting at his desk reading some papers. I greeted him with a quiet, "Good morning." He looked up and smiled. "Good morning, Tanya. You look very nice today." I said thank you and quickly walked to my desk. I could feel his eyes on me, and I felt uncomfortable, though I did not show it. I tried to stay busy all morning. The phone rang many times. I wrote emails, printed letters, and sorted the mail. I wanted to focus on my tasks, but my mind kept going back to him. Every time he came out of his office, I felt nervous. Sometimes I hoped he would talk to me. Sometimes I wished he would leave me alone. It was a strange mix of feelings, and I did not understand them. At lunchtime, Lily came to sit with me. She opened her sandwich and said, "You seem quiet today." I said I was just tired. She looked at me carefully and said, "You can tell me if something is wrong." I smiled and shook my head. "Everything is fine." I did not want to talk about Mr. Harris. I did not want anyone to know what I was feeling. That afternoon, he asked me to stay after work again. I wanted to say no, but I was afraid to make him angry. He said he needed help finishing a report. Everyone else had gone home. The office was quiet, and only the sound of the clock filled the room. I typed while he spoke softly behind me. Then, after a moment of silence, he said, "Tanya, do you like working here?" "Yes, I do," I said quickly. He stood up and came closer. "I am glad," he said. "You are a good worker. You make this office brighter." His words made me blush. But I looked down at the papers. Then he said, "You are more than just my secretary to me." I looked up, confused. "What do you mean, sir?" He smiled. "I mean, I care about you." His voice was soft, but it made me feel trapped. I did not know what to say. I smiled weakly and said, "Thank you, sir. That's very kind." He stepped back, still smiling. "You don't have to call me sir. I told you before. You can call me Mark." That evening, I drove home in silence. My hands shook a little on the steering wheel. I kept hearing his voice say, "I care about you." Those words should have made me happy, but they did not. I felt small and scared. I knew something was wrong, but I did not know what to do. That night, I did not eat much dinner. I sat at the table staring at my food. I thought about how he looked at me, how he smiled, and how he made me feel special. But I also remembered the way my heart beat fast when he stood too close. I did not feel safe anymore. The next morning, I woke up feeling tired. My eyes were heavy from little sleep. When I reached the office, I tried to act normal. I said good morning to everyone. Mr. Harris smiled at me, but I did not look directly at him. I stayed busy with calls and papers. When he called me into his office, I said I was working on something important. For the first time, I made an excuse. He said, "Okay, come when you finish." I never went. During lunch, I sat outside the office with my sandwich. Lily joined me again. She looked at me and said, "You look worried, Tanya. What happened?" I wanted to stay quiet, but my eyes filled with tears. I said softly, "I think my boss likes me, but not in a normal way." Lily frowned. "What do you mean?" I told her about the gifts and what he said when we were alone. Lily looked serious. "Tanya, that's not okay," she said. "You are his employee. He should respect you." I looked down. "But he has never been rude. He is just kind." "Kind doesn't mean he can say those things," she replied. "He knows you are young and new. He should keep things professional." Her words made sense. I felt a mix of fear and sadness. I wanted to believe she was wrong, but deep down, I knew she was right. That night, I went home and cried quietly. I did not understand how a person who seemed so nice could make me feel so bad. I thought about quitting my job, but I needed the money. My rent was high, and I had no one else to help me. The next day, I tried to stay away from him. When he called me, I answered from my desk instead of going inside. I spoke only about work. He seemed confused. "Are you okay, Tanya?" he asked. I said, "Yes, I'm fine." But my voice was cold. That Friday before leaving, he stopped by my desk. "You've been different this week," he said. "Did I do something wrong?" I looked at him. His face looked kind, but I remembered Lily's words. I said, "No, everything is fine, sir." He sighed and said, "If you say so. I just thought we were friends." Then he walked away. That night, I could not sleep. I thought about his last words. "I just thought we were friends." Maybe he really believed that. Maybe he did not see how his actions made me feel. Or maybe he did know, and he just did not care. I did not know which answer was worse. Over the weekend, I stayed home. I cleaned, watched TV, and called my mother. She said, "You sound tired, Tanya. Is everything okay at work?" I wanted to tell her everything, but I said, "Yes, everything is fine. Just busy." On Monday morning, I stood in front of the mirror before leaving home. I looked at myself carefully. I wanted to look professional, not pretty. I wore simple clothes and no lipstick. I told myself this week would be different. I would keep things only about work. When I reached the office, I smiled politely at everyone. Mr. Harris said, "Good morning, Tanya." I answered, "Good morning, sir," in a flat voice. He looked surprised. During the day, he gave me many tasks, but said little else. I was glad. The week passed quietly, and I felt calmer. On Friday afternoon, he called me into his office. I hesitated but went in. He said, "I have some files for you to send later. And Tanya, I'm sorry if I made you uncomfortable." His tone was serious. I looked at him, unsure what to say. "I didn't mean to," he said softly. "I just enjoy talking to you." I nodded. "I understand. Let's just keep things about work," I said. He looked down for a moment, then smiled. "Of course." When I left his office, I felt a little lighter. Maybe things would be normal again. Maybe he meant what he said. But deep inside, I still did not fully trust him. That night, I watched TV and ate dinner alone. I tried to think about the future. I wanted a better job one day, somewhere I would feel safe and respected. I did not want to spend my days worrying about what my boss might say next. I was not sure if I was brave enough to leave yet, but I was starting to see the truth. Mr. Harris cared about me, but not in a way that was right. I could no longer pretend it was simple kindness. For the first time, I began to ask myself what kind of person I wanted to be. Someone who stayed silent or someone who stood up for herself. I was not ready to answer that question yet, but I knew I would have to soon. The next few weeks passed quietly. Mr. Harris spoke less to me. He only asked for reports or gave short instructions. I was thankful for that. The office felt normal again. Still, every time he called my name, I felt a small fear inside. I was always careful to keep the door open when I entered his office. One afternoon, something changed. A new assistant joined the company. Her name was Julia. She was 20 years old, friendly, and always smiling. On her first day, Mr. Harris asked me to train her. I showed her how to answer the phone, use the printer, and write simple emails. She learned fast and seemed happy to work here. I liked her. After a few days, I began to notice something. Mr. Harris started giving Julia small gifts too. A notebook, a coffee mug, even a small perfume bottle. He told her she was a bright young worker. When I saw that, my heart felt heavy. For months, I believed I was special to him. Now I understood that I was not. This was his habit. This was what he did with women who worked for him. That night when I went home, I felt both sad and free. I sat on my bed and said out loud, "He does not care about me." It hurt to say those words, but they were true. All the gifts, all the kind words, they were not love. They were a way to control me. The next morning, I came to the office early. I looked around the small room I had worked in for 2 years. The phones, the computers, the smell of coffee. It all felt different now. I realized how much I had changed. I no longer wanted his attention. I wanted respect. When Mr. Harris arrived, he greeted me as usual. "Good morning, Tanya." I smiled politely. "Good morning, sir." Then I handed him a small envelope. He looked confused. "What is this?" he asked. "My resignation letter," I said softly. He stared at me. "You're leaving?" "Yes," I said. "I found another job. I start next month." He was quiet for a moment. Then he said, "I didn't think you were unhappy here." "I wasn't unhappy," I said, "but I want to work somewhere I can grow and feel safe." He looked down, then nodded slowly. "I see," he said. "I wish you good luck." I thanked him and walked out of his office. My hands were shaking, but my heart felt light. For the first time in many months, I felt proud of myself. During my last week, I helped Julia with her work and showed her how to organize the files. She was kind and asked me why I was leaving. I smiled and said, "It's time for a change." I wanted to warn her about Mr. Harris, but I decided not to. She would see who he was soon enough. On my final day, I turned off my computer, cleaned my desk, and looked around one last time. The place felt smaller than before. I walked out of the office with my bag and my head held high. The air outside was warm. The sun was bright. I took a deep breath and smiled. I did not know what my new job would be like, but I knew one thing. I would never let anyone make me feel small again. When I got home, I made a cup of tea and sat by the window. For a moment, I thought about Mr. Harris and all the times I believed he cared about me. I no longer felt angry, just wiser. I whispered to myself, I deserve better. And for the first time, I truly believed it. Thank you for listening to this story. If you enjoyed this story, please like the video and subscribe to English Medium Stories. Stay with us for more classic stories in easy English.